Hey folks, this is Kalani. Something strange and potentially disastrous is coming with Legion. The crowd in Melee is going to be quite a bit larger than we're used to, but I wonder if this is intentional or if Blizzard is hoping things won't be too bad. We've got a whole bunch of reasons to try something new, which throws us into the Melee bunch, and a few more reasons to re-roll, even if it's not for the shiniest new toys with glaives. So let's have a chat about Melee, why we should expect a lot of them in our raids or groups, and whether this could be a detriment, a boon, or an inside conspiracy on Blizzard's side. Time to equip your tinfoil hats. First up, we have the most obvious one, Demon Hunters, the second hero class which doesn't have to start at level 1. In fact, it doesn't even have to start way back like Death Knights did. It's right up there at 100 when you finish the starting area. It wouldn't make much sense to have it any other way with the lore though, so I'm really happy about that. To me, this makes Demon Hunter the most appealing new class thus far. No old world leveling, nothing to dredge through to get to the new stuff, and that's before we even get to how long people have waited to call themselves all the weird variations of Illidan you can think of and run around with a pair of glaives. Only now they can do it and actually be a Demon Hunter. Add to the mix that Demon Hunter looks pretty awesome from the get-go, all the movement and mobility is going to be super crazy in PvP environments and probably make you the only melee which has to move for special jobs in raids, but you're going to look flash as hell no matter where you are. Some of their abilities have very nice special effects and feel super satisfying to use. Have at those I-beams, folks. Throw in wings so you can glide and never die to fall damage, pinch metamorphosis from warlocks and turn into an even bigger, more badass demon and rip everything to shreds, and run around with one of the most iconic and sought after weapons in the game. Everybody wants those glaives. If everything about Demon Hunter doesn't look good already, they're the new kid on the block. That's probably enough reason for a lot of them to be running around anyways. Even though it's not quite a new class, Hunters will be contributing to the melee clutter as well. One of their specs, Survival, is being overhauled as a new melee spec. This not only adds to the melee, but actually takes away from the ranged. One less ranged spec to choose from tips the balance even more, and due to it being overhauled, it's going to be all brand new, with a few token additions from the past. Another dollop of shiny new goodness, and a little bit of nostalgia for people to sink their teeth into, and it doesn't even require any re-rolling if you're already playing Hunter. I can guarantee quite a few people will be trying Survival, especially seeing as specs are becoming more specialised with what they can do, and some of the Hunter's favourite tools will become Survival only. The best thing about people playing Melee Hunters is that if it does become a serious issue, having too many melee in a group, at least they can swap over to a ranged spec for any bosses where they are a detriment while playing Survival and hop back whenever they are able. It would mean picking up and maintaining two of their artifacts, but I'd be surprised if folks weren't doing that already. Another new spec to the party is the Outlaw Rogue. While I can see plenty of people trying it out, I don't expect it to cause as much of a ruckus as Survival Hunter simply due to its current playstyle. It still feels a lot like combat does right now, even though a lot of abilities have new names and they have a few more pirate-themed tools. It's still not quite the same crazy change that we can expect for Hunters. To top off the class and spec-based attraction, we have Death Knights. One of the most prominent reasons that people have put off playing Death Knights is the rune system. It took me way too long to get accustomed to, and I still have some issues playing in fast-paced environments. That rune system is changing. Essentially, you'll have 6 death runes instead of different runes. It makes rune management so much easier, making them easier to pick up, and it seems more likely folks will give them another try. On the flip side of that, rune management was what made Death Knights stand apart, and some current DK players might not like the changes so much, so I see a large influx of players trying Death Knight, while a few masters of the class seek other entertainment. Maybe Demon Hunters. If new classes, specs and class changes aren't quite enough to win you over to the melee brawl, how about some brand new super shiny next gen attack animations for all of your abilities? Oh, well, if you want to stay a ranged hunter or a caster, you're out of luck. New animations are only for melee as of now. We may yet see some changes to range, but I'm not entirely sure what you could do to make them as fancy as what the melee are getting. New animations for every special ability. Warriors are looking particularly badass right now. Just look at that whirlwind. Watching a character while you fight should actually be interesting, at least for a little while. It's more than 2 or 3 attack animations on an endless loop. Using your abilities has better visual feedback and feels a damn sight more satisfying than it currently does. The animations give you a greater sense of your spec as well. Fury warriors are reckless and rampaging, their blades cut and slice everywhere and at every angle. Outlaw rogue feels like a swashbuckler, a pirate, going around their enemies' blades and striking where they can, then pulling out a hidden pistol and shooting you point blank in the face. Demon hunters feel like you are never going to get caught, and hell, from the look of half your abilities, you might actually be able to avoid death without any issue. So if you want to take a step forward in what is repeatedly called an outdated game, rerolling melee is a fantastic step to take. So if you're in the same mindset as me, you may be thinking, crikey, I want to play melee. And even if I don't, I can see why a lot of people would want to. Chances are we'll have quite a chunk of melee in our battlegrounds, our dungeons, and in our raids. The question I want to pose is this going to be a detriment or a boon, and is this either going to be accounted for in future design decisions, or is it actually a well-calculated move based upon what changes they want to make regarding design decisions? Typically, having a melee-heavy group is less desirable than a ranged-heavy group. Why? Because ranged can deal their damage from anywhere at any time, including where the melee would usually stand. In fact, several older boss encounters actually had to debuff things like cast times to anyone who stood in melee to prevent casters from stacking there and happily ignoring anything at ranged. So ranged is basically a melee who can deal their damage from other places than the boss's butt, making them a little more versatile. They can also swap to any adds within range without moving, thus without losing potential DPS. At the end of the day, ranged heavy can work in a lot more situations when compared to melee heavy. Imagine Kilrog with no ranged. Melee would have to run out for every add that spawned. It's not exactly a game breaker, or it's not the end of the world, but it is far less efficient. If we were to expect a lot of melee, I guess we should expect to have a pretty large bench for raid teams. If encounter designs don't change too much where mechanics are concerned, there will always be a cutoff for melee, whether that means you can't take over a certain number due to a mechanic, or if you need a certain number of range to manage a different mechanic. It seems to be that melee always have that restriction. Dungeons shouldn't be too bad, you would just have to make a few differences or alterations to how you approach the fights. I'm sure 3 melee would work with no problems, just some tricks that range can provide might be a little more efficient. But what if this isn't only being accounted for but actively being planned for? What if the tables turn and you now require a certain number of melee, with ranged being the filler? It would be an interesting change, especially if they manage to get the balance right and ask for X ranged and Y melee with enough leftover space to fill with whatever you have in your raid group. It's going to be fun and interesting to see how the raids develop with all this in mind. Battlegrounds shouldn't be anywhere near as bad, but then when a ranged pops up who just happens to be super awesome at counting melee joins the fight, I can see people getting a tad frustrated, especially if their entire team is melee. It may just become a game of which team has the most ranged instead of which team has the most healers. So, what's your thoughts? Are we looking way over capacity for melee come Legion, or do you think things will sort themselves out or not even need sorting out at all? Do you plan to reroll a melee for Legion for any of the reasons I cover in this video? If so, what do you want to play and why? Leave all your comments in the comments section below, as well as any questions, queries or theories you may have to add. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.